Alright, so the title of this video is probably something like Isekai is the greatest art form, and that might be a slight exaggeration. We all like some pretentious media sometimes. Personally, I read Crime and Punishment for the sole purpose of acting pretentious. And shows and books like that are great, don't get me wrong. They're much better written and usually have a deeper commentary, but Isekai just transcends every other genre in the way that I don't have to be in an Isekai mood. There isn't even an Isekai mood because that's just my constant state of being. By the way, I'm not talking about the SAO type where they go into a video game and all the other characters are also Isekai'd. Those are fine, but there is something so entertaining about watching a character enter an already established world where you can learn about the world with the main character. It just allows the story to have incredibly entertaining world building. Also, everybody likes a power fantasy every once in a while. Some people like to act like they're too good for it, but I view those people like I view people who think they're too good for McDonald's. If you pretend like you don't like McDonald's, you gotta get over yourself. They perfected the chicken nugget and the french fry. They're just simple and delicious. You don't have to think too hard about what you're eating. The chicken nugget doesn't have to comment on the political and economic state of the world. You just have to enjoy it because it tastes good. Just like you have to enjoy Isekai because it's just enjoyable. Don't think too hard about how it's rotting your brain. This video is a little random, but I've been going through an anime burnout for a couple months, but then I watched an Isekai, then another one, then another one, then I stopped getting any sleep because I would stay up every night watching Isekai. Which isn't healthy, but it did make me feel kind of like when I started watching anime, and it was definitely an enjoyable time. So if you've been burnt out on anime, my best advice is just watch Isekai. That being said, I just want to talk about some of the Isekai that I've watched recently. They're not the best Isekai by any means. That would probably go to Mushoku Tensei, but I do appreciate them for getting me back into anime. The first show I want to talk about is Spirit Chronicles. I would say the full name, but it would be a bad look if I messed it up. It's definitely not the most unique Isekai, which I don't have a problem with. I prefer it to how most Isekais try to have some boring gimmick that separates them from others. But this show is just everything I love about Isekai done very well. In the first season, it's already explored 3 very different areas, which I just want to know why there has to be animal people that get discriminated against in every Isekai. It's probably the most pointless trope. Is it just an evolution of the fishmen in One Piece? But that aside, it was interesting learning about the different villages and the characters in them. It reminded me a little bit of Shield Hero because the main characters wanted for crimes they didn't commit, but I like how this one doesn't turn it into an edgy revenge fantasy like Shield Hero. Not to hate on Shield Hero, but that can't really hold my attention for more than a season. With Spirit Chronicles, I'm still very excited to see what happens from here, and there is supposed to be a season 2, which is always nice to hear with anime. It's also nice to see an Isekai main character that's actually somewhat competent, which I've been noticing in a lot of new Isekai. It's kind of stupid when the main character is a loser but instantly becomes the most charming man alive because of Isekai powers. Speaking of a competent main character, I also want to talk about the world's finest assassin. The highlight of the show is just how competent the main character is. I mean, he was already the world's finest assassin in his first life, so it's not just luck that made him who he is. He did get lucky to have a powerful assassin family, but he would have been successful no matter what situation he was in. There's also just some cool plot lines. The arc where he became a merchant for training was a great way to introduce more of the world, and it was just an interesting idea. I also love that since the main character was competent in his first life, his new one isn't about any power goal, it's just about living for himself and not being a tool like he was originally. It's also nice to see that he doesn't have every ability known to man. He only got to pick a few abilities and has to use them in smart ways. It definitely makes the fights a breath of fresh air for Isekai. The next Isekai is the Faraway Paladin. First of all, I just want to talk about my complaints, which aren't that big, but I'd still like to talk about them. My main critique has nothing to do with the plot, and I don't know if it's just me, but there's something off about the conversations in the show. They're just edited unnaturally, and it can be awkward. It sometimes seems like the whole show is just the small chopped up review that usually begins an episode after a cliffhanger. It's just like there's something missing. I don't know if there should be more pauses or if there should be more words, but I'll just play a short clip to show what I mean.
Oh, blood.
On the day when you brought a human child back here, my first thought was that you shouldn't have even bothered. But it occurred to me that if I educated him, he might be of use.
Hey, old man!
Nothing that I said was incorrect. I now recognize his true talent and am teaching him to use it, aren't I?
Another thing, which isn't really a complaint, but it's kind of weird when you realize the main character is just a fantasy version of a Jehovah's Witness. But I do think this is one of the most unique isekais I've ever seen, especially with the original concept of being raised by undead people, but even after that, it does have a lot of things I've never seen in an isekai, and I am also definitely excited to see where this one goes from here. I also want to talk about isekai like Trapped in the Dating Sim, which might sound trashy, but it's not. Well, it's not a bad show. Well, it's not unenjoyable to watch. It's cool that the main character is trying to be a side character. We definitely haven't seen that before, or at least that many times. Actually, that might be every edgy anime MC. There's also a video game isekai that I dismissed earlier in the video, like Death March to a Parallel World. Even though it is a video game isekai, it's not like every character was isekai'd into the game. I think it's definitely worth watching. Those are the isekai that I want to specifically mention in this video. Of course, there are more. Many more, actually. About 17 new isekai drop every day. So I can't get to them all, but maybe I'll complete isekai one day. I want to watch them all, kind of like Pokemon or something. But that's it for the video. I just wanted to show some love for my favorite genre of art. I would appreciate if you liked the video, and I would very much appreciate if you subscribed.